Welcome back. You're watching Kenya's Choice on Citizen Television, and we are giving you an update at the from the Bomas of Kenya, and here at the national, that is the county tallying center in the county of Nairobi, where we have just had the official communication from the county returning officer in announcement of the governor-elect, the senator-elect, and the woman MP-elect. But Vicky has a statement from the religious leaders, the men of cloth and the men of God. And what are they saying, Vicky?
That's right. This is from the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops statement just coming into our newsrooms, basically calling for patience and understanding as we wait for the presidential results. A few key points that they raise in this statement. The first being, beware of fake news. This going directly to Kenyans who are following the results and that process. And they say at this critical time, we must guard against falling victim to all manner of fake news, especially on social media. There are people bent to cause unnecessary panic. Therefore, they say we ask for you to treat any suspicious or alarming text, image, or video you receive on your social media with great caution. They go on to say, cross-check messages you doubt with mainstream media, and let us join hands in preventing any form of incitement. The second point they raise in this statement is for the IEBC to pick up pace in the tallying process. And they say the palpable anxiety building due to the long time it is taking to complete the presidential vote tallying could generate unnecessary tensions, rumors, and hard feelings amongst Kenyans. They go on to say that we understand the need for IEBC to be thorough in ensuring the process is credible. Now, while we commend this effort, they go on to say, we also encourage IEBC to do what it takes to conclude the tallying process. I won't take you through the full statement, but the other points touch on preparing ourselves for a peaceful presidential results, and of course, for patriotism at this time, for the love of our country. And they have a special message to the young people, which allow me to read that at least. You have a future to protect. Please do not be used to bring skirmishes or cause violence. The contenders have a way to solve any dissatisfaction in the process through the courts. We remind you that engaging in unlawful acts does not help you in any way in building your future. Negative behavior because of political differences will hurt you, your neighbor, and your country. Be wise, stay focused on protecting your future. That statement from the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, duly signed there by Most Reverend Martin Kivuva Musonde, Chairman of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops.
There we are, the clarion call from the men of cloth and a key stakeholder in the country. Vincent and Ambassador, we do all recall, and Jeff, the critical role that the men of cloth did play, the crescendo towards multipartyism in 1992. And recently we have seen how the Catholic Church in the Democratic Republic of the Congo also ended the deadlock politically after a standoff between the opposition and the former Congolese President Joseph Kabila, ending up with the coming on board of President Felix Tshisekedi. How timely is this statement, Vincent, from the men of God?
So I welcome the statement. I laud the church for speaking up in this time. This is actually before we went to a break when you said we are going for a break. So thanks for keeping the tradition and ensuring that what I wanted to say that time I am able to say. This is the time to appeal for calm. So listening to what Victoria has quoted and knowing that it's coming from the KCCB is encouraging, because I can tell you, even in 2007, in the thick of things, if you're in this country, our opinion poll showed that even the spiritual leaders, the church leaders, still had a higher level of confidence, even higher than the Kofi Annan mediated process. This is backed up by data. So when they speak in such a time, what happens? There are people who listen to them. Remember, these are the people, we go to them when people are born, when people are celebrating transitions, marriages, and also when people are exiting this earth. So speaking that will bring calm into the nation. So I commend them, but I also appeal to them. And they go beyond the statements. They go beyond press conference and they reach out to the politicians, reach out to the candidates to send a message of calm, a message of tranquility, and also to ask the political class to continue speaking and affirming confidence to the IEBC. We've just seen, we've seen what has just happened in Nairobi. I think we were watching live, if I'm not mistaken. You've seen what the election officer has done. As just shown, I am in charge here, I am doing my job, and it has ended in a celebration. So when we support them, when we give them the support that is required, when IEBC succeed, everybody succeeds. I think for me, that is the message that I would want to appeal. I actually even appeal this to the media, like to all these stakeholders, that even as you inform accurately, as you speak, do it with courageously, but let's have the higher responsibility of speaking this country up. Because the truth of the matter is that we are going to have an election announced. There will be a winner of this election. And just looking at the map, you can see very clearly that there will be a section of this country that will feel that we have won. There is a section that will feel that we have lost. And you remember I wanted to intervene to the ambassador's sentiment when she was talking about the mixed member representation. I am a firm believer, and I have actually written even on this, that our current political system is not sustainable, because it is a system with a majoritarian system. Where if you have a good turnout in the mountain and you have a good turnout in the Rift Valley, you are president. And the challenge with that is that it is an exclusive and not an inclusive process. I am saying this as a professional because I believe firmly that there is a place for the leader of opposition in our politics and in our current arrangement, where they have facilitated and paid by the taxpayer, and they also appoint a shadow cabinet so as to present the opposite side of government. Because I can tell you, no one has all the answers and all the wisdom to take this country forward. The ability to have an alternative narrative is what propels us. So I actually would appeal. I know there were issues around BBI and all that conversation. If you remove the politics and you objectively look at where they can some wisdom in it, there is a place for a well-facilitated opposition in our politics. So one of the things that I would actually say, if we can get so that, because this is a historic moment, so allow me to say this.
Okay.
Believing, praying, and hoping. Remember those three: believing, hoping, and praying for IEBC to succeed in their current tallying. The next assignment that will be required is actually having a facilitated opposition do their work. Because you've seen, when we move our theater of politics from parliament to the streets, we lose the country. I can assure you the journey of reforming, building, and forming our country will be complete when we have a facilitated opposition, which is funded by the taxpayer. The arrangement that we have currently in Parliament, whereby the leader of majority is not the person who was on the ticket. Sorry, the leader of the minority, the opposition, is not somebody who was running at the ticket at the presidential level. There is an element of legitimacy that they don't have. If you compare, for example, the former leader of minority being John Mbadi, if that mandate was exercised, for example, by Raila Odinga, there is a level of legitimacy. In fact, even the media, you could still continue to refer the former Prime Minister as the official leader of, because there is a legitimate role that they play. Because look at these numbers. You can see very clearly, based on the tally so far, the leader might just get 51 or 50 plus, just based on the projection so far, telling you very clearly that the 49% that will be outside would want to feel a part and a stake. So for me, I would just buttress. I have concern on the mixed member representation because Ambassador Koki, throughout the constitutional making journey, Kenyans kept on saying we want to elect our president. There was an element of the person who becomes president, that transfer of power, people felt they want to do it themselves. So I would combine that by saying if we facilitate the opposition to do well and perform their function, because we will have an opposition nonetheless, we will complete our governance grid. Okay. Currently, there is one element that is limping because of the system, the pure presidential system that we've adopted.
Okay. Ambassador Koki, do you agree? To an extent, but I would say that when you have pure proportional representation, that's when you don't have direct election of the president and other candidates, because you elect political parties through the list and so on, like in South Africa. However, when you have mixed member proportional representation, it means you marry the best of the two systems.
I see.
And therefore, you have the system that elects directly the president through the whole country as one constituency, geographic constituency, and then it also has geographical constituencies for some other members of parliament that are directly elected through their electoral districts. Then you have specifically those that come in through proportional representation that balances the situation so that the democratic situation of a country is actually strengthened. It also strengthens political parties because the engagement of politics then, it is through political parties. And I wanted to say something about the same. For example, I believe if we had mixed member proportional representation, marrying the best of the two systems, the two popular systems, first past the post and then proportional representation, it would actually enhance not only democracy, but also reduce tensions. Because there is a correlationship between elections and elected leaders and national resources and how equitably they are shared. And we know in Kenya, that is why opportunities go to the winning party. And these opportunities are not shared equitably, even as much as the Constitution says. If you look at most of the appointments are made on the basis of who is making them. And there are certain, in some places, some of these appointments don't look at credentials and qualifications. And that's why I come back to the point of a strong leader of the opposition. You remember, this position was created just before the election of 2002. And in fact, a lot of money was put in the office of the leader of the opposition. You recall in 1992, the late Jaramogi was 94 before he died. 92 actually, and 97, there were positions of the leader of opposition. And in fact, we had shadow cabinets. And that position was even enhanced and more money invested into that office in 2002 when President Uhuru lost to President Kibaki. And in fact, the purpose of that office is, it's a very important office because it creates the capacity of political parties in the opposition and provides accountability to the government. They hold the government of the day to account. In relation to allocation of national resources, budgeting, oversight, and all sorts of things. In South Africa, for example, I remember when President Mbeki was president, when he left to go for official trips, he left the power to Buthelezi, who was not in the same...
Wasn't that Mandela?
Yes.
That was Mandela. That was
even he.
Even Mandela?
Even
oh, I see. Because I remember.
And because they have proportional representation. And it also allows building of trust, building of confidence, and electoral integrity because of the leaders that we have.
Ambassador.
In my view, coalition governments are good for governments, for those people in power, but they're actually not good for democracy.
And the coalitions?
Coalition governments are a convenience, a marriage of convenience, because you need. But in Kenya, the way we approach coalitions, we approach them with a view to winning, so that we have these voting blocks based on ethnicity, and you put people in coalitions, not because of the things that you share together, and also not because you are interested in serving the interest of Kenyans together, but because you want to win. And that's the wrong approach to coalition government.
Ambassador, speaking of the government of the day, President Uhuru Kenyatta on Saturday met a team of AU and COMESA election observers at State House who briefed him on their observations about the election process. Now, the team, led by former Sierra Leone President Ernest Bai Koroma, said the electoral process has been relatively transparent and all the observers have issued positive reports. Now, the election observers emphasized that they have learned a lot from the elections in Kenya and will share the good example of real democracy, institutional credibility, and upholding the rule of law to build, quote unquote, the Africa we want.
Jeff, do you know when we have the opportunity to participate in international conferences and events, particularly all the way to the UN level, the ambassador is here. I would want to hear a side of this, but let me say this. Kenya is held with very high respect. In fact, when you're in the bilateral talk in the UN meetings, when it comes to Africa, they look at three things. They look at what is the position of Nigeria, what is the position of Kenya, and what is the position of South Africa. When the three countries take a position, Africa moves ahead. So at times, I wish we would give more attention to some of these developments because they move our country up. There are some words, today I'm very patriotic, allow me to say this.
Go ahead.
The words of our national anthem, yes. The second stanza that says, let all and one arise and build this country together. So that element of, I was going to ask, if you look at the wins in this election alone, even before we go to the conclusion of this tally, the joint presidential debate by the media, in partnership with the Media Council, for me that was a plus because coming together, giving a platform to Kenyans, and even the way the informing, educating Kenyans, there is a lot to be celebrated. Just connecting to the statement from the Joint Monitoring Committee or Observation Committee by the African Union and COMESA, is that you can see that they're looking up to the country. And here you have a situation whereby even the sitting president, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, is as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, he is waiting, like everybody else, for the results from the media. I think that, for me, is something to be celebrated. And just showing you the integrity and bringing it home, because all elections is local. We've seen from Nairobi, when the IBC county returning officer just read the law. We are following through the process and restored calm, gave order, and that process was well concluded. So as we still continue rooting for the IBC, for commending them for an incredible job that they have done, and just praying that this process really is concluded well. How I wish, Jeff, that after this election, we can even have a recording of the winner calling the person who has lost, the way we see it in other countries, and if it can be done live, commending them and wishing them that they would, congratulations, it was a good race, and that we wish you well, take Kenya forward, and we will have all our support. And even if they are not happy, be able to say that I am not happy with the results, I'm happy Kenya has a good dispute resolution framework, we will be heading to the Supreme Court. That in itself strengthens our institutions. There is a story you ran. Since I worked in the media in the past, we did not respond to it. Allow me to respond to this at this point. Sure. The speech by the speech by the governor, Kimemia. You remember that we did not speak to it.
Yes.
I think I want to commend Kimemia by coming out by saying that he will go to the dispute resolution framework. I'm going to go to court. That for me is something that should be commended, because the reason why these frameworks exist is that so that everybody is heard. Democracy is normally having the minority to have their say, even as the majority has their way. And that can go all the way to the Supreme Court. So I think we need to encourage that. We need to see the growth of that. And just to really, again, bring this back to the IBC, that the exercise they're undertaking is not a Kenyan thing. This is an African thing. This is a global thing. Yeah. So give it we call the integrity the attention, the commitment, the professionalism, the transparency that is required to take this thing forward. While we were speaking here and you took a break, we're getting also comments. People are actually saying we would actually want to see this process not only concluded fast, but also concluded well, so that we can go back to doing business, even as we leave you guys with your business of broadcasting.
Ambassador, you talked about inclusion and the mixed proportion style, and Vincent also touched about the place of official opposition leader, more or less what we have in the Westminster system in the UK, though it's a parliamentary system of governance where the official opposition leader is in parliament. There's a shadow cabinet that checks over or checkmates the opposite end of the ruling party. Now, given that you have mentioned the aspect about political coalitions in Kenya as being convenience vehicles, like we have seen many aspects from an observation perspective as to what transpired in 2013 between the TNA and the URP parties, and the Jubilee Party in 2016. Now, a party that fell short by 62 members to have an absolute majority in Parliament then, now has only 26 members. Where is the place of institutionalizing politics in the country?
Thank you very much. That's actually one of the biggest problems we have in Kenya, because we don't grow these public institutions of governance like political parties. If you look at political parties, they are all patronized by individuals, and they carry them for purposes of winning an election. Most political parties come together, zinakarabatiwa, so that the people who are behind them win that election. And you see this, the only exception of a serious political party was KANU. And KANU has continued in its own, well, it has lost its original glory, but I can tell you, all the political parties, if you look at from 1992 when the opposition, when Section 2A of the Constitution was repealed, was added to allow for multi-party elections, most political parties that came to that election, through that election, are not the ones that we are seeing today. And one of the reasons why I am a big supporter of mixed member proportional representation is because it grows political parties. Because political parties are very powerful. They can actually recall a president, like you saw in South Africa, how President Mbeki was recalled by ANC. And that's, we are not asking only for proportional representation, but for both, so that then we can grow political parties. Look at the question you're asking me about Jubilee.
Yes.
You remember Jubilee was TNA, then it morphed into
TNA URP coalition, then a political party.
So it actually was only used as a vehicle for one election. And in fact, I am impressed that it has survived in another election, and that it has actually got members of parliament. Because if you look historically, all the political parties, especially in the opposition, none of them has done as well as Jubilee. For example, look at 2002. The political parties that brought in, the coalition that brought in President Kibaki.
Yes.
In 2007, it wasn't the one. The Orange Democratic Party was born out of the orange and the banana
referendum
in 2005. And they forgot all the other political parties that they had used in 2002, and then went in 2007 with this ODM, Kenya ODM, and so on, and so on. Then in 2012, they also 2013, they used another grouping of political parties, and then in 2017, then you saw now Jubilee, as you recall, and now in this period of time, we have changed a little bit, whereby these coalitions of political parties are coming together, not necessarily for ideology or for what they believe in or to serve the interest of Kenyans, but to bring the political players to the table with numbers so that they can win the election. You recall how both coalitions were wooing His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, because they knew he would be the game changer in any side. And you saw, even after he joined Azimio, the other coalition was going to his area and other places, you know, praising him and saying how wonderful, how badly he has been treated, and can you please, you know, if you come to our side, we'll treat you well. But you think they were treating him because his wiper is in dalliance with theirs? No, they wanted his numbers because they know he would make fundamental difference. And indeed, if Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka was on the other side, we would have, whichever side, they would have a huge majority. And that's what they were counting on, and so on and so forth. I don't know the result, of course, because it has not been announced. But one thing I can say for sure, all this, the transformation of presidential elections through the court cases in the Supreme Court decisions and the amendments to the law have made it much more difficult to rig presidential elections, but not impossible, because Kenyans are very ingenious people. And I can tell you for free that all sorts of weird things have been tried in this election, because of course our eyes are only looking at the presidential election. They are looking at that portal, and we are looking at the returning officer Chebukati. But in the meantime, there's a lot of other stuff that could be going on, and that's why it is important for us to be vigilant and to look before we go. I just have a small comment to make about the interfaith intervention. I agree absolutely that the interfaith group has played a phenomenal job since the Molo clashes and so on. Of course, with varying degrees of success during different periods of time. And their role in our society is critical, because Kenyans are very religious people. And therefore, they respond favorably to their religious leaders. So their call is important. It's not just timely, but it should also be continuous.
Ambassador, sorry to cut you off, but you know, you guys, both of you, have been talking about competition and not being sore losers, you know, accepting defeat.
Exactly.
Listen to Bolika.
The decision of the people, actually not defeat, accepting the decision of the people.
But for them, it's defeat. Yes.
Diplomatic way of putting it.
More palatable way.
Absolutely. Listen to Polycarp Igathi just now on Twitter, 11 minutes ago. He says, I accept the decision of the people of Nairobi and thank all our supporters. Wow. Then he went on to say, the governor of Nairobi is His Excellency Johnson Sakaja. Congratulations.
Fantastic.
God bless Kenya.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
Actually, if you have his number, call him for an interview. One of these days, because one of the ways, sorry, I'm interfering with your work.
No.
But I'm saying one of the... I'm not the producer,
Go ahead.
I know the media.
Listen, you're great, go ahead.
Because we have seen what leadership does. We remember a few minutes ago, we were watching the two people I would want to recommend for an interview here is the county returning officer of Nairobi. We need to hear his side of the story, because we highlight good things. I think also we need to hear Polycarp. That kind of leadership is what this country requires, because as a result of those sentiments, Jeff, Nairobi moves on. Johnson Sakaja, we require him to write a tweet commending him for a good race that they did, and also calling for his support so that we can rally Nairobians to get Nairobi working. Nairobi has contributed significantly to the GDP of this country. When you have the right signal like that coming from the top leadership, that is good for this city. The other thing that I also want to point out is that people also need to know that it is not a war. It is just an element of, you know what elections is all about? An election is a very simple thing. It is a competition between individuals on who has best ideas on how to manage our taxes. Because the truth of the matter, if Raila is declared president, he will not execute his agenda using his own money. It will be our taxpayers. The same case to William Ruto. the execution of his agenda will be based on our taxes. The same thing to the governor of Nairobi. So when we have that kind of a thing, it needs to be celebrated, it needs to be appreciated. There's something I wanted to say. I had pointed out, point of information, my teacher is here. We have identified one thing that is common that's coming out, the issue of trust deficit. Jeff, if there are people who are not doing their job and doing it very well, one of them, and I would want to point out, are institutions like the NCIC. I think it is important to actually reflect back and ask ourselves, why is it that we don't trust each other, and what can we do to rebuild trust? Because that, for me, will be one of the things that I would want to hear from the NCIC, that the issue of just monitoring people around hate speech, elections, bill and norma, there is more that needs to be done. What can we do to restore harmony and cohesion in our country so that our life does not fall and rise on who is in power? The only issue of strengthening our devolved units of government so that we start hearing stories of good surgery success stories in Wajir, in Mandera, in Garissa. We start hearing good stories in Makueni. If we can get that working, I think that is a plus. The other thing that also we need is getting a government that reflects and mirrors the face of this country in terms of gender, in terms of youth, in terms of even regional representation. Then finally, Jeff, I think I would also want to say that if there are good stories that are coming out there, let them be highlighted by institutions and media like this, because there is something called it's called the feel-good factor. The feel-good factor contributes immensely into how our country progresses. Just allow me to say this, Jeff and Tim. If you look at our GDP growth, and I'm speaking as an economist here, every time we went for an election from 1988 is that immediately you have an election, you have a dip in our economy. This happened in 92, this happened in 97, this happened in 2002. It also happened in 2000 and was from 2005. In fact, immediately after the referendum, if you were to see the graph, you see there was a sharp growth of GDP, but it started declining from 0.5, telling you what the referendum did, and the 2 years to the 2007, hitting a low in 2008. So one of the reasons why we want to see this election working is that we will come out faster out of the current economic situation. And the truth of the matter is that Jeff, Vicky, and Ayub, the people are going through a tough time economically at the moment. The cost of living, and with you have parents who have children at home, a high level of unemployment. The faster we can get back to working and getting this economy working, even the better, not only for our country, but for the families at home.
Absolutely. Vincent, just to recap, in case someone is just joining us right now.
Okay.
Competition, you know, someone who's a good competitor. I'll read the tweet again. It's worth another read.
Okay.
Yes.
Polycarp Igade is saying, I accept the decision of the people of Nairobi and thank all our supporters. He says the governor of Nairobi is His Excellency Johnson Sakaja. Congratulations. Oh, there it is. You can see it on the screen. It says, God bless Kenya. And by the way, Sakaja is on his way to Kasarani.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, to accept or to receive his certificate.
I'm sure we'll see him.
Oh, we'll get him live, definitely.
That's your responsibility as the media. Make sure we don't miss it. Anyway, we don't give him
I wanted to say something.
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to say something that will lighten the mood in this room.
Please make sure it does.
During Kanu times, we had so much peace, love, and unity. And the reason why we had this peace, love, and unity during elections was because that KANU was so powerful that if you got a KANU nomination, of course it was the only political party since '82, but if you got a KANU nomination, you are assured of elections. That's why, in fact, people confused national elections with KANU elections.
The nominations.
With the KANU nominations, primaries. Because elections ended at KANU nominations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, if at some stage when the president liked you, and thought you are going to lose an election, he created a constituency. You recall, this gerrymandering was a common thing. Yeah. You recall JJ?
Yeah.
Kamotho.
Yes.
Kamotho actually got Mathioya.
Yeah.
When John Meshuki was a threat in Kangema for JJ. You know, the late President Moi said to JJ, you know, don't worry, usiwe na shaka. He created Mathioya and told him, there you go, and he was elected. He did the same in Ijara. For the late Yusuf Haji. Said, watu wasikupatie maneno mingi. Nitakupatia yako pia. He created Ijara, and therefore it created peace. I mean, there was Jeremiah. I told you I would entertain you. But seriously though, I'm not saying gerrymandering is a good thing. Yes. I'm just saying that the wise old President Moi, and we used to call him the professor of politics. He wasn't called professor of politics for nothing. And so if you look at his history, a lot of people agree that it was not democratic, the way he did things. But you must agree it brought a lot more
It moved the country, it kept the country together, yeah.
Exactly, and kept us together. This, and I want to say, I know there are situation rooms by religious groups that are looking to try to bring people together. I know a few people who I've spoken to are telling me that one thing I would like to say, elections is not a life and death issue. And we try to literally make it a matter of life and death. We must really stop to do that. And this has to come from our leadership. Because we follow and conduct ourselves the same way our leaders conduct ourselves. Because if you see, we have been coexisting as neighbors. And one of the point that Vincent raised was the role of constitutional commissions. And the National Cohesion Commission, for example, and other constitutional commissions, we have the Human Rights Commission, the Gender, and so on. It is important that they are not only respected, they are trusted by people. And that's why when National Cohesion speaks, there is a segment of Kenyans who don't trust them. They think they have been assimilated into the state. And that is what is wrong with our institutions. It is important that we cultivate trust and confidence from Kenyans, and we focus our service delivery to Kenyans, not to any individual, and not to allow interference. And that's why Kenyans, we need now to embark on not just uniting ourselves, but your initial point, not just uniting and embracing each other, but also creating more civic awareness and the responsibility of citizenship, what it means to be a patriot.
Sure. Do you agree that what Polycarp just did on Twitter, will that calm the nerves? Will that cool the temperatures?
I have given you an assignment. I am not your boss here.
Other than to call him.
Okay.
And I'll leave my number here.
Yes.
So I'll keep checking, because you know, Jeff, you know what? One of the reasons why I quoted the presidential and the gubernatorial debate in our that was held before the election. It was the best of Kenyan media coming together and giving Kenyans a platform. Jeff, I celebrate you guys because you're the best, as in you're doing your best to inform Kenyans, and that's why we come in this platform. When the best among us is seen, we have the responsibility to celebrate it and do it in public. So what Polycarp Igathe, irrespective of our political persuasions have done, is something worth being celebrated. And that's why I'm saying it is good to come and hear, listen to him. It tells you very clearly as that he ran the race. And as I said, we normally don't use the term that he lost, just that his votes did not amount, were not as the same number of votes. So by and what's the duration? It is 11 minutes.
It was 11 minutes, yeah.
And if you count the time that the announcement was done, it's less than a duration of 1 hour. So when we increasingly have that, it sends a signal, because the signal there is that, therefore, it gives Johnson Sakaja an opportunity to be the greater person here. So one of the messages that I would expect from my friend Sakaja is that, and we normally draft speeches for politicians, is that you may not have voted for me, but I will be the governor of all of you. That in my government, every person who is a resident of Nairobi will have a place. We may not agree of everything, but I will give you the opportunity to present your position, rallying the members of the county assembly, speaking a message of confidence to the employees of those in Nairobi County, because they play a significant role, that I am going to be your manager. I am going to give everybody the space to do their work. You know what, Jeff? Sakaja will not sweep our streets, but we need our streets to be clean, done by somebody. Sakaja will not bring water to, we will not come and fix the pipes, but he needs to create the space for those people to do their work. And we've seen very clearly from, I keep referring to what we saw in Nairobi County, where there is leadership, people will notice. In 6 months' time, the people of Nairobi will know very clearly if Sakaja is providing the leadership that is required. Because leadership is about trust. Where a leader is, people will know that so it's the message now, the responsibility has shifted from Igathe to Sakaja. And as we know very well, chapter 6 says that leadership is public trust that has been entrusted to you. So John Sakaja, 5 million Nairobians are looking up to you. And not only 5 million people are looking up to you, the other regional cities, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, are looking up to Nairobi. When Nairobi rises up, the standards are set to the other. So, and that's the message of goodwill that we send to Sakaja. And hopefully that is what we will hear from his speech as we watch.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to see that even in the face of defeat, but not clinching the seat, I'll use your words, Vincent, not to say that he's a loser, that he can exhibit leadership.
Yes.
And we've seen that emerging trend in this election cycle of several election losers conceding defeat, congratulating the winner, and also agitating for peace as we move forward. I understand now we do have the audible statement from the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops.